Hi class, well we're back for Integumentary Part 2. Hopefully I'll do a little bit better on this one. Let's see how I do. So we are still in the dermis, so we're going to go on to the structures that are in the dermis. So let's start with our sensory receptors. Now sensory receptors are real important. Don't forget they're part of the integumentary system, a very important part. Otherwise you couldn't feel much of anything. So we're going to talk about two corpuscles. A corpuscle is a big collection of cells. So they're not huge, but they're pretty big. A Meissner corpuscle. Well, I think Meissner was another German scientist. It's named after him, aka tactile corpuscle. So it is telling you it is a tactile. It's picking up touch sensation, much like the Merkel. But remember, the Merkel cell was a single cell. The Merkel cell was found where? The Merkel cell was found in the stratum basale of the epidermis. So do not confuse Merkel with Meissner. Even though they start with M, Merkel is in the epidermis, Meissner lives in the dermis. So Meissner corpuscle, he's located in the dermal papillae. Remember where the dermal papillae is. And the other corpuscle is pacinian. Pacinian corpuscle, aka lamellated corpuscle. Pacinian corpuscle is going to be located deeper in the dermis and in the hypodermis too. It's going to be picking up pressure and vibration sensations. So when you feel pressure when you're squeezing something, or if your cell phone is set on vibrate and you feel it vibrating in your pocket, that is your pacinian corpuscle picking that up. So let's look at these guys. So here's your skin model from your classroom. So let me get down here. So here is your stratum basale. And remember, okay, stratum basale. So here's your epidermis up here. So here is a Meissner. Oh my gosh, I do not want that color. That was a Meissner corpuscle. Let me get green. Sorry. This is a Meissner corpuscle. Meissner corpuscle. This is in the papillary region, right, of the dermis. So they're right underneath the epidermis, which is a good place because if you're going to be feeling sensation coming from the top, you might want them really close to the skin. All this stuff here, the blue and red, this is all just blood flow. Lots of blood flow underneath in this papillary region because why? Well, number one, they're supplying blood and nutrients to our avascular epidermis, right? Remember, all epithelial tissue is avascular, so they're getting their blood and nutrients from all the blood vessels down in this papillary region. But here are your Meissner corpuscles, your tactile corpuscles on your skin model. Here is the skin model too. This is showing you the pacinian corpuscle. So here is the pacinian corpuscle. He looks like a lollipop down here. To me, he looks like a lollipop. So pacinian corpuscle, this is showing you that he's in the hypodermis. Remember, once you are in the fat adipose layer, you are in the hypodermis. So our skin model is showing you pacinian in the hypodermis, but he could also be found up in the deeper regions of the dermis. So Meissners are up here in the papillary region. These pick up tactile or touch sensation. Pacinian picks up pressure and vibration. That's what you need to know about those guys. Here is showing you a pacinian corpuscle right here. He is now in what layer? He's in the reticular layer, the deeper layer of the dermis. I wanted to show you something here too. This is a nerve root plexus. This is another nerve, sensory nerve structure that we have. You don't really need to identify this on a lab practical just because I don't think we have any pictures that show it or models that show it. But I wanted to explain to you why when you feel that little tiny insect up here crawling and it moves your hair as it's crawling through, it must weigh what? 0.00001 ounce. Weighs nothing, but you feel it because it's moving these hairs as it's crawling through, and that hair moves and it's triggering a sensation down here. So these little nerves down around the hair, there's the hair root down here, they're telling your body something's up here. So that's just kind of cool. I wanted to point that out to you. So now we finished our sensory structures. What were the two sensory structures we talked about? Pacinian and meissner corpuscles. Make sure you know them, where you will find them and their function. Now we're going to go on to structures that we call epidermal derivatives. What does that mean? Epidermal means it's coming something to do with the dermis. They're derived from, they're made from the epidermis. And that's exactly what they are. These guys are they are derived from the epidermis. All the glands in your skin, so if it has the word gland, remember everything that has the word gland is made from epithelial tissue, but the glands in your skin are made from the epithelium from the epidermis. Your hair is an epidermal derivative. We'll talk about that. And your nails. On this classroom model, this is showing you the epidermis, right? So this is the stratum basale. Here's your stratum spinosum. And look what happens here. They are going down. Wow, they're going down into the dermis. This is the stratum. I'm tracing the stratum basale here. They are going all the way down. And they're actually going to come up around like this. So that's the stratum basale, and here's the part of the stratum spinosum coming down. So you can see that this is a sebaceous oil gland right here. Here is the sebaceous oil gland that hasn't been cut. This one's showing you a cut section. You can tell this is an epidermal derivative. This is an oil gland. Your sebaceous glands are oil glands, and they are connected to your hair. And you can now tell that the hair is an epidermal derivative too. Look at all that part of the epidermis going around the hair. That's how we make hair, is from these epidermal cells. And this is our sweat gland, a sweat gland. This is also made from the epidermis. It's not showing you it here, but it is. This is all epidermal cells. So let's have a look at these guys. Oh, before we get started with our glands, just wanted to review something. So we're going to be talking about exocrine glands. We have our oil glands, which are our sebaceous glands, our oil glands, and our sweat glands. These two types of glands are called exocrine glands. Crine, if it ends in crine, it means secretion. So here we're going to talk about exocrine, not to be confused with endocrine. We will go over this many times, but this is one of those things you have to know. What's the difference between an exocrine and endocrine gland? They both secrete something. Exocrine glands secrete through a duct. They are connected to a duct. And they secrete into or on epithelial tissue. All of them do. All of them. If you're an exocrine gland, you secrete through a duct onto epithelium. If you are an exocrine gland, you are ductless. You secrete into the blood, and your secretions are hormones. So just know the difference between these two. But in the skin, they are all exocrine glands, or sebaceous glands and sweat glands. So let's start off, I think we're starting off with the sebaceous gland. Yeah, so here is our sebaceous gland. So sebaceous glands are connected to our hair. That's why you've got oily hair. If you don't wash your hair, it will eventually get really oily. The oil helps lubricate your hair so it doesn't get all dried up. Helps lubricate the skin too. Deposits the oil on top of your skin, so it keeps your skin from getting too dry also. And supposedly this oil, it has some antibacterial function too, but only when it's on top of the skin. But since this oil is being made in the sebaceous glands, secreted out through the pore where the hair comes out, it's dumped off onto the skin. But if you get a clog in this oil, and it clogs up the pore and it can't get released, and that oil, the oil's still going to be made, what's going to happen? The dreaded, oops, I think I do, let me go here, dreaded acne. So acne is related to those good old sebaceous glands, and once you hit puberty, they start secreting even more. So that is what acne is, just that duct has been, that pore has been blocked off, and that oil cannot get out, and bacteria start growing in there. So just wanted to show you, here's the sebaceous gland again. Yeah, that's it. Sebaceous gland connected to your hair, an epidermal derivative, makes oil. So now let's go on to your sweat glands. You have two types of sweat glands. So we'll go through those first. We're going to start with our eccrine glands. Eccrine glands are your plain old, when you think of your sweat glands when you're out exercising and you're sweating, that's an eccrine gland, aka merocrine. I call it eccrine. You'll see it both ways. One thing about an anatomy, there is so many AKAs. Some structures have 3 or 4 AKAs. Pick the one that is better for you. I don't care which one you pick, whichever one's easier for you. So plain old eccrine sweat glands, these are them on your skin model. This is eccrine sweat gland, and it coils through the skin. Eccrine sweat gland right here. Eccrine sweat glands. Eccrine sweat glands secrete clear secretions. It's 99% water and then some salt. That's why your sweat tastes salty. So eccrine sweat glands, your typical old sweat glands, versus apocrine sweat glands. Now apocrine sweat glands, now these only start functioning during that great time of your life called puberty. Once you get pubic hair, axillary hair, all those new hairs, that's when they start secreting. And they are secreting into those hairs. Pubic hair, axillary hair. They're still sweat glands. They're still coiled sweat glands. here's showing you a cross section. Looks like simple cuboidal here. Yep. These are coming from, these are epidermal derivatives too. This is an epidermal derivative. Apocrine gland. I call it APO for axillary pubic odorous. I'm not saying if it's good or bad, it just has a smell. And that smell, they're calling it pheromones. This secretion is cloudy, it's not clear, it has a distinct smell to it. And people will tell you that they're attracted to people because of their smell. One person's smell may smell wonderful to you, another one may smell terrible to you, but hey, that's partly how we're attracted to each other is by our smells, and we all have a distinct smell. So that is your apocrine sweat gland. So make sure you know the difference between apocrine, axillary pubic odorous, onset, puberty, and it's a cloudy secretion. Whoop. So here I drew this picture just because I wanted to show you how these are all epidermal derivatives. So here is my stratum basale. Here is my stratum spinosum, the green. So I'm showing you an eccrine sweat gland. And then I'm showing you the hair. We're going to talk about hair now. But here is the stratum basale and the stratum spinosum. Now when we talk about hair, you are going to have to know what the hair shaft is. Hair shaft is the part that you see above the skin. So when you see hair, you are seeing the shaft of the hair. The hair root, just like a tree root, is below the surface. So this is going to be the hair root. This dark thing. Hair is keratin. So hair is keratin. Oh my God. Keratin. You know how to spell it. Keratin. Keratin. Who makes keratin? Keratinocytes. So what we're having down here at the bottom, the base of the hair, see how these, I drew a close-up here. So here we have our stratum basale right here, and it's going to go up into this region. Do you see this little region? It looks like a nipple here. Does it look like a little nipple right there, that white part? That is the hair papilla. Hair papilla, it's an indentation at the base of the hair, and that hair papilla is where blood vessels are going to be going in there to feed and nourish these keratinocytes. So we have keratinocytes down here, and where this indentation is, this is called the hair matrix. Hair matrix. These are keratinocytes that are actively making keratin to form your hair, and we're going to have some melanocytes down here too. Melanocytes are giving your hair color. Yellow, red, brown, black. Those are from the melanocytes giving your pigment into your hair. When we get old and we have gray hair, so those melanocytes have stopped functioning, they've given up the ghost, they're not making pigment anymore, and that hair turns that lovely gray color. Another structure you're going to need to know is hair follicle. A hair follicle is this the epidermal cells that are surrounding the root of the hair. So think of the hair follicle as this envelope of epidermal cells enclosing the hair root. The hair bulb is just the widening, the fat part of your hair follicle right down here. So that's the hair bulb down here. So get all those things in your mind: hair follicle, hair bulb, hair matrix, hair papilla, hair root, hair shaft. Those are the structures you're going to have to know on the hair. So get those down. So on this diagram, hair shaft, yes, hair root, yowzers, hair root. Hair follicle is this part, the epidermal envelope that goes around it. The hair bulb is just this widening part of down here. Hair papilla is just this indentation that goes up here. It's an indentation from the dermis, and in that hair papilla are blood vessels that are nourishing that hair matrix that is right here. The other thing we need to talk about is this little smooth muscle. It's a muscle that you don't control. Your autonomic nervous system controls it. This is your erector with an A, not an E, erector pili muscle. It's attached to your hair. I call it your swing muscle because when it contracts, it's going to have that hair stand straight up and erect. Oops. Pretend that's straight up and erect. So all these hairs are going to stand straight up. Now, if you ever had that sensation of the hair standing in the back of your neck straight up, well, maybe you have or haven't. That's from your autonomic nervous system. If you get real scared, your hairs will stand up, but we don't have a lot of them. But if you see a cat that's frightened, or you'll see the cat's hair stand straight up. That is from the erector pili muscle. Erector pili muscle. So make sure you know what that is and how to spell it. And I think we are done. Oh, I just wanted to show you this picture. Just showing you. Oh, got cut off. This is showing you the hair follicle. I wanted you just to see. This is just the epithelial cells that are lining the hair root. They pulled the hair root out. Oops. Let's see. Yeah, okay, that is next. So those epidermal derivatives, those are kind of important for skin burns. So if we're going to talk about first degree, second degree, and third degree. First degree burn, it's contained within the epidermis. It has not gone into the dermis. So first degree is contained within the epidermis, has not gone into the dermis. Usually you'll just see some redness when you have a first degree burn. If you have a second degree burn is now penetrated all the way through the epidermis and it's gone into the dermis. Once you've had a penetration into the dermis, you're going to get water leaking in between the dermis and the epidermis. There's going to be some damage, so you're going to get some water secretions here, and you're going to get a blister. That's when you're going to see blisters forming, and we always tell you do not pop a blister because that blister is sterile and it's protecting you. And what happens when you get that blister, you're going to get a separation. That blister is actually causing a separation between the dermis and the epidermis. So try not to pop those blisters. It keeps that sterile. So depending on how deep your second degree burn is, usually we'll just say second degree is through the epidermis and into the dermis. Third degree burn would be now you've gone into the hypodermis. But when would you need a skin graft? When would you need a skin graft? So if you look at, say we had a burn right here. So we've got a second degree burn, but oh my gosh, look at all these epidermal derivatives we have. I got a big epidermal derivative here in the hair. This may be burned, but I still have all these epidermal cells here. All my sweat glands, this is a sweat gland, these all have epidermal cells. This has epidermal cells. So as long as I still have epidermal derivatives in here, they can regenerate the epidermis that's burned. So if you have plenty of epidermal derivatives left and they haven't been burned through, you can regenerate the epidermis and not need a skin graft. Once you're down in this hypodermis, you're going to need a skin graft. There's no epidermal derivatives down through here. So that's just nice to know. So I think that's it. Here's your classroom model. Let's just go through these real quick. What's this? Hair shaft. What's this? Hair root. What's this? Sebaceous oil gland. What's this? Erector pili muscle. What is this? Hair follicle. What is this indentation? Hair papilla. Hair papilla, the indentation. What is this? This is an eccrine sweat gland. Eccrine sweat gland. What are these structures here? These are meissner corpuscles, aka tactile corpuscles. What are these? What layer of the dermis is this top layer, the top 20% up here? It's the papillary region with these little papilla right up here. Yes, papillary region. This is what region here? Reticular region. What kind of connective tissue is in the papillary region? Underneath all epithelial tissue is areolar connective tissue. What kind of connective tissue is here? Dense, irregular connective tissue. What is this structure? A pacinian, aka lamellated corpuscle. He could be in the hypodermis or dermis. What am I forgetting? Your classroom model is showing you this is an apocrine gland. This is misleading because this apocrine gland should be connected to a hair. I've talked to dermatologists. I've asked them. They said apocrine glands are connected to hair. So unless this is just a strange, I don't know. I'm not going to ask you what this is because that's not right. Apocrine glands should be connected to the hairs in your pubic axillary region. So I think that covers everything on this structure. So basically, I think I went through everything for you. So if you have any questions, just ask. Otherwise, I think you'll do great on the exam. Bye. See you in class.